Hello, Asten Holmes-Elliott here. So last time on Tuesday or a workshop, we were talking about people within a city and how people can voice possible changes and ideas and attitudes. Today we're going to be looking at how people use a city, and the medium in this workshop is going to be photography. So throughout the workshop, I'm going to show some photographs that I've taken and some ideas and stuff like that as influences throughout the examples that I show you and stuff. The process is also really important as well. So the process of looking at your surroundings and looking at them with artistic or design thought is also very important. So we've all been thinking up possible alternative realities, and we can do this for objects within a city too, and alternative uses, and looking at our surroundings differently, maybe inventing up narratives. Also, I'm going to go pretty out there with the first few examples so we can have some fun. It's Friday after all. So artists and artist collectives like this one, N55. Yeah, artists and artist collectives, they can be important to experiment with ideas. And this group, N55 from Copenhagen, these guys are a really good example of the concept of this workshop, as the Danish group works with the idea of art as part of everyday life. Everything they make and design is open source as well, with templates that are free to download on their website. And I discovered these guys because they made a piece called The Walking House. Yeah, that's it there. Which is literally a house that walks around. It was experimenting with the idea of the nomadic lifestyle. The house constantly is on the move, so humans wouldn't erode or pollute the areas that they stay in for long periods of time. And I really recommend going on their website, actually, as there's loads of fun ideas on there. And there's another one called Park Cycle Swarm, which consists of a number of human-powered mobile gardens, and the individual gardens can be combined to form a kind of public park, and empowers people to build an instant park whenever or wherever they want to. And so continuing this idea of looking at space and cities in a different way, designer Martin Gerscher made this solar kitchen restaurant. And obviously, as a particularly new idea, using solar panels to like energize something that's like in the middle of nowhere or like a square without any electricity. But the bit I like about this is down here. It's the opening days or opening times as sunny days. I really love that. It reminds me of a positive version of the quote at the beginning of George Orwell's book 1984. And I think that quote is, it says, the clock struck 13. That could have been like used in our slogan workshop, actually. It's a phrase that makes you look twice, basically, and you get a glimpse of an idea of an alternative way of doing things, kind of thing. And the fact that this piece plays with the idea of people's ability to adapt and test people's flexibility. He says, if it rains, we have to learn to be flexible, adapt, reschedule, and deal with delays subject to nature. And I feel this is quite apt for now, as we've had to learn to be quite flexible in ways that we never thought we could. So as we said, we're using photography in this workshop, looking at our surroundings and see if there's anything that is using the concepts that we come across in this work and the examples of this workshop, looking at how people use the city and ideas of how we might use it differently ourselves. I was looking for space being used differently on my street outside my house to take photos of with my phone, and I found these and took a photo of them. So the photo itself doesn't have to be amazing, but of course it's important to make sure it's focused. Maybe take it landscape rather than portrait, like just kind of turn it around instead of like keeping it portrait. And but it's more about the concept you found and what you're thinking about, almost like you're archiving, recording the ideas. So with this, people are obviously doing some spring cleaning at the moment, and many people are putting books on their doorsteps or fence for people to help themselves. Putting things on a doorstep with a sign saying free isn't new, obviously, but a lot of people, without even talking to each other, seem to be doing it, and essentially are making little outside community like libraries at the moment, which is quite interesting. This one, obviously, they've made this wee house for it and everything. They've got a lot of time on their hands. But I also found this one, which was literally just like a shoebox outside with a book's planet, but it's essentially the exact same idea kind of thing. And in this vein, we could look at inventing objects having an alternative use. Quite a classic idea, using shipping containers in an alternative way in terms of structures and using them as buildings. Artists use them as kind of like artist studios sometimes. In Southampton, where I am, we have the docks, so there's no end to shipping containers, and they get used for lots of things. Second years on the fine art degree where I work, which is the Solent University, they have every year they have an exhibition in like 2 or 3 shipping containers in the square in the centre of town. I think I have a picture of that too. Yes, that's them there. And then that's them just like setting it all up with the lights and everything like that before they're putting the artwork inside and everything. Actually, I saw another thing where they were using shipping containers, where this was in Christchurch, just after the earthquake in 2011, I think it was, where they made their main city centres had collapsed, and so they made a temporary shopping mall out of shipping containers. So I was looking on my street for kind of like smaller scale, for objects that are being used in alternative ways. And next door, I found these sinks in a neighbour's front garden that had been used for plants once upon a time. Obviously, it's looking a wee bit worse for wear now. But then I also remembered that actually I stole a bath out of a skip recently to put plants in as well. And so these were some more examples of some photos that I was able to take of my surrounding area where objects were being used in a different way. I also wanted to show you this piece by a Lithuanian female artist trio. They turned an abandoned building in Venice into a beach. It was titled Sun and Sea Marina. And you could sign up to go hang out on the beach in your swimmies. And all you had to do, well, you could do whatever you wanted to do that you do on a beach. You could read, play ball, have a picnic, anything you would do apart from swim in the sea, because there wasn't one. And the only rule was that you weren't allowed to look at the opera singers that were surrounding you, singing the opera piece that was made for the performance, that went on a loop every day. They just sang and sang and sang. And the other thing you weren't allowed to do was you weren't allowed to look up. Yeah, you can see that this is the building there. But because you weren't allowed to look up, because there was a balcony where people would come in, and that's how they would view the artwork. They would look down on the opera singers and the people down there. And the idea was that like the songs were all about kind of like about leisure and our times and stuff like that. It was like a critique on that kind of stuff. It was all very surreal. I wanted to talk about this piece due to the use of an abandoned building, because I always think there's so much potential in kind of like abandoned buildings and stuff like that. And when they get overgrown with nature, I like the idea you can add your own narratives and the ideas of stories around it. I take a lot of photos of things where time has long forgot. I've got one here. I really like the idea of creating your own history for the scene. I took a picture of this beetle that was completely overgrown, and like I love the idea that like someone had like got that with the idea of doing it up, and now there's a tree growing up through the bumper of it kind of thing, and it makes you wonder where they went and what happened. And actually, when I was just walking around outside, I saw it in my neighbour's garden. This is one I took recently with my phone when I was walking around outside my house. And this was quite interesting in terms of like the grass going up around the chairs and the feel of people like had left quickly, and nature's taking its course, and it's like a zombie film or something. Look for something to take a photo of that can allow the viewers to invent their own dystopian scenario over the top, maybe. My last example is actually kind of the opposite of this. It's the idea of nature being in control, turned on its head. And this is the artist Haichem Baranda, and he's actually given rise to a kind of parallel world within his installation, Mescali, I think it's called. And when I first saw this, I just thought it was, it just looked like this. I just thought that it was these black boxes. Like, I didn't really give it the time it needed, really, and I just walked off without giving them a chance. But it just so happened in that gallery that you had to come back round in a circle, and then you passed the work again. And this would have been like 3 hours later at this point or something like that. And they completely changed. Well, not completely changed, but they had changed. And so what I didn't realise was the black boxes were actually greenhouses, and they were designed as a closed system in which the humidity and exposure to light were automatically controlled. And inside was night blooming jasmine, which obviously only blooms at night, giving off this amazing fragrance. And the artist had experimented with the idea of reversing day and night, allowing us to enjoy the sweet scent of the flowers while we were awake to be present. And I was looking around for ideas based on this influence to take a photo of, where people are working with and using nature in a way that works for us. And in Southampton, I live on the River Itchen, which is a tidal river, where the tide goes all the way out, leaving quite a lot of riverbed exposed. It's very, very industrial, and it's quite difficult to get to, and there's not a lot of access to be able to go down to the water and stuff like that. So when it happens to be all the way out at night, obviously the tides are at different times, people go down to the area and they go down on the riverbed. And as long as you don't walk out too far, you don't end up sinking. And they build these big bonfires, and they have parties on the water that's left in the middle channel. But you have to keep an eye on the tide so the water doesn't come up and get you or come and surround you. I'll just show you this one. So this is the photo that I took of that area during the day when the tide is not all the way out yet. But you can see the exposed riverbed, and you can see how that, like, it tells the story, and like how if I was able to take a photo of that while people were down doing the bonfires, it would be really interesting. So that's my last photo and examples. I didn't have to go very far to find objects and spaces within a city that have alternative uses. And remember, it's the ideas and the process of being aware of your surroundings that is important, as important as the finished photo. Have a look out your window even and see if there's anything that you can see and take photos of yourself even from that far. If you put them online, remember to use the hashtag TP School of Art, and maybe add a little bit of writing for context as well to explain your narrative maybe as well. Cool, thanks very much.